Welcome back, friends. Here we are, Unit 3. We have finally reached the third unit in the AP Environmental Science curriculum. 3.1, lesson 3.1 is all about generalist and specialist species. I know I've made reference to these earlier with some other previous lessons, but now I'm going to take the entire lesson just to focus in on the difference between these two different types of species. According to the College Board says that we should be able to identify the differences between generalist and specialist species. Identify, not that detailed level, which is probably going to be perfectly fine for a little quick lesson here. So first thing we want to define is the concept of what is an ecological niche. An ecological niche is the role an organism serves within an ecosystem. So how does it obtain its food, water, shelter, how it survives, how it reproduces, kind of what it does within the ecosystem. It's not necessarily where it lives. That's not its niche. It's a lot more complicated than that. And that's when we go back to talking about food chains, food webs, pulling something out, finding unintended consequences of the removal of the species or the way in which species interact and learning more about it. It's oftentimes we're finding the organismal niche is far deeper and far more complicated than we originally thought. The big thing when we talk about different species and the way in which they've evolved is their niche has really evolved to avoid competition. Remember, we talked about competition being detrimental to both species involved. It's an expenditure of energy, which they do not need to do. The goal is to conserve energy and then to be able to use that energy for reproduction and to continue to grow and develop, not to have to get your food, not to have to get all the things that you need, those limiting factors. So conserving energy is really important, and niche diversity is incredibly important within an ecosystem because that's how organisms have evolved to minimize competition. So what are some examples of roles within an ecosystem? And that's kind of where we get to the title of this lesson, the idea of you being a generalist or you being a specialist. Now, when we talk about generalists and specialists, oftentimes you'll hear it applied to many different other professions or other things like that. A general contractor will be able to do everything from the roof to the plumbing. Now, there are specialists, they specialize just a plumber or specialize just a roofer, but the general contractor is usually just a handyman. They can do all these repairs. Now, are they the best at doing any one of those things? No, but you might not get the best plumber either. So it's just an idea. It's a different way. Now, each of them have their own roles. Now, certain people might get more work doing certain other projects than, a plumber, but it's the idea now when you apply those concepts of generalists and specialists to ecology and to an ecosystem, you're going to have organisms which are going to be able to experience a general lifestyle versus a specialized lifestyle. So let's go and delve into those generalists first. A generalist is we're going to put that general descriptor in front of most of these things here. They're able to be non-specific in their food selection, so they can take a general or a broad type of food. They tolerate a wide variety or generalized variety of climatic conditions. They can use a lot of different resources within their life cycle. So they're using a whole bunch of different things, so missing one doesn't cause them to die off at all. They have a broad ecological niche that encompasses many different other facets, and they can easily become invasive species, which we talked about in lesson 9.8. So the invasive species, remember, you're in a new area, so why are you able to thrive in a new area? It's because you're used to being able to adapt to a wide variety of things. Some example species, sometimes example species help you to really understand things. Things like raccoons. Raccoons are found all over the United States, constantly eating out of your trash or fish or different things like that. Whole bunch of different food sources, wide variety of habitats, wide variety of temperature swings that they can deal with. Talk about coyotes. Coyotes are other general species. Again, all the way from the deserts to the forest, they survive. And then rats, which we know can be found pretty much in any habitat, coexisting with humans or not. Now, next we're going to look at specialist species. Specialist species are very specialized in their food, they're very specialized in their habitat, they're very specialized in their way of life. So it's really it's understanding pretty much the opposites of everything I just talked about. They have a very specialized ecological niche. Again, let's put some examples to it. Koala bears. Koala bears are very specialized species. Giant panda, which also is an endangered species, probably due to it being so specialized. And then down here we have what's called the marvelous spatule tail. It's a variety of bird, but it's got very large plumes. It's found in very, very limited region in the Amazon or in Peru, where it's found, a very, very small geographical region. So much like we talk about, general species can become invasive very easily. On the converse, specialist species can oftentimes become endangered very easily. Now let's apply the ideas of generalists and specialists to looking at climatic conditions, especially with climate change being a big thing, and talking about how these species have learned or can adapt to a changing environment. Specialists are not going to change that well. Maybe it's because their food is specialized. Maybe it's because the habitat in which they grow is specialized. When it starts to change, plants, animals, they don't move that fast. And with biomes migrating and different things, more extreme weather events, all of these things are going to put more and more pressure on our specialist species to survive. Our general species, however, are going to be better adapted to surviving within that new environment. Now, here's the thing. When we look at climate change and how it's going to impact things on the long-term scale, it's going to decrease our biodiversity levels on the planet. All right, climate change is going to cause species to go extinct. Now, why do we even have specialist species on the planet? It's because they become so unique in their specific niche that they're avoiding those type of different competitions we talked about with partitioning. Now, with climate change, you're kind of negating the uniqueness and you're forcing everyone into more of a survival mode. And that's where your generalist will oftentimes thrive. This chart is often used to represent generalist and specialist species. So I just want to kind of quickly go over it, and then I'm going to recap this lesson. So we are pretty much at the end of this lesson. The lines that you see are the two different individuals. So the panda is represented with a red line, and the raccoon is represented with a blue line. Now, the niche or the role, the different foods, all that encompassing thing is the area underneath the curve. And you can see with the giant panda, it's very, very small because it has a very specialized niche. It's a specialized species. Compare that with the raccoon, which has a very, very broad base to its curve, and that's because it can survive in a wide variety of habitats. Does it thrive in all of them? No. Okay, go back to ecological tolerance. It can survive. It doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to thrive. So that is something I want to make sure you understand. Recapping this concept, specialist species, very specialized in their habitat, very specialized in their food source, very specialized in their niche, very, very likely to go endangered, under threats and duress. Compare that to a general species, which lives in a wide variety of habitats, wide variety of food, wide variety of climatic conditions, right? And not only that, but a general species can also oftentimes become invasive because if it's introduced to a new area, it can outcompete a lot of those native specialized species in that new area. So it's something I want to make sure you can identify the differences and the key characteristics between a generalist and a specialist. If you can, fantastic. I look forward to you at the next lesson. If you can't, shoot me an email. You know how to get a hold of me. And then we'll talk about ways in which you can where we can work together to make sure you understand this topic. Thanks for tuning in. I know it's a lot shorter than some of the previous lessons we've had. Hopefully I'll keep them short for a little while, but no promises. And I look forward to seeing you with the next lesson.
You like that lesson? I know you did. So why don't you go ahead and smash that like button right now. Go ahead and comment. Tell all your friends about how great that lesson was. And make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to keep bringing you AP environmental content that you're going to want to watch. Or do whatever else those other YouTube channels tell you to do. And with that, Maloney.